You're listening to the Raw Honeys podcast, the place to be real, be love, and befriend. Join Chelsea Fine, Heather Hildenbrand, and me, Amanda Axel. We're real friends who aren't afraid to talk about the raw truth of real life. If you're looking for a group of girlfriends who will support and encourage you when the going gets tough, this is the place to be. Pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, and enjoy the show.
Hey honeys, thank you for tuning into today's show. This is Chelsea Fine, and I'm here with Heather Hildenbrand and Amanda Axel. And today we're going to be talking about what it is that we do that can give us and help us make our very best day ever. Society teaches us the best way to be productive is to do tasks. So even when we know we'll suffer if we skip things like meditation or exercise or even just stopping to smell the roses, what do? We end up checking our email before we're even out of bed. We grab a cup of coffee, we hurry to our laptop, we get on social media, and from there the day just takes us over, and then we're at the mercy of whatever happens. And by the end of the day, we're just a product of our situations and our interactions. We have no control, no peace, no sense of accomplishment. We might even say things to ourselves like, where did the day go? Or, I need more hours in the day. Or, pass the line. We all probably say that. It's because we feel exhausted mentally and physically. As women, as wives, as moms, entrepreneurs, as friends, as all of the many hats that we wear, we've learned the hard way that taking time to get right with ourselves, the very first thing in the morning or the first thing before we go to work, is the very most important thing we can do to kind of guarantee that our day is going to be successful. And in fact, it can make the difference between having the best day ever or the worst. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what actually is the best day ever. How do we define that? So Amanda, I'm going to start with you. When you think of the best day ever, what does that look like for you?
Well, for me, if I look back on my life and what are some of the best days I've ever had, to me, the best days that I've ever had are very well-rounded days where I was able to interact with different aspects of my life, not just work, not just family, not just personal, whatever it is. And also being really in line with my values, so something, would be like, how am I eating? Like, how am I interacting with my family? That kind of thing, like things that make me feel really good when I'm doing them. Those are the best days ever for me. And later I'll talk about more specifics on that.
Yeah. Okay. So Heather, what about you? What does your best day look like?
Well, so Amanda was saying all of that, and then I was sitting here thinking, like, what was my best day ever? And I mean, my best days ever are when I felt like really, really happy or really, really accomplished or whatever. And so then I was like, okay, that's not the answer everybody wants, right? So like, what was I doing? What were those days? Just reflex right off the bat. A memory came to mind, and it was a day for whatever reason. It was a motorcycle ride that me and my husband went on, and we've been on tons of motorcycle rides together. And this day was cold, and I don't like that. And so why am I remembering this as the best day ever? But I think it was for a couple reasons. I think it was because I was getting to do something that I love, that lights me up. And then the second reason is so it made me feel really, really lit up. And if you're going to talk about it on like a broader scale level, I can tell you for sure there are a lot of days, more often than not, that I wake up excited about my life. So I think I would call those days the best day ever because it's the same excitement that I had when I was thinking back about that motorcycle ride. And I saw, it's like a meme or something going around on social media I've seen a bunch of times, and it's like, create a life that you don't need a vacation from. And that's what that makes me think of. Those are the best days ever when you wake up and you're excited about just your daily life. Because everybody can say the best day ever is like when they went on this exotic vacation, or like when something that's not a normal part of their daily routine happened to them, right? And that is true. That's really cool. And I don't want to discount that at all. Those are awesome. But I think for me, it's that feeling of that much excitement of just being able to wake up and go, oh, I get to do this today. I get to do my daily routine today. And that's a cool feeling. And then of course there are things though that if I don't do them, those things, that feeling goes away really quickly. By like 10 a.m. that feeling's gone, right? So like there are things that I can do to set myself up to hold on to that feeling. But those are the best days ever when I know that I'm about to live a whole day in a way that's going to make me feel really lit up about my life. For sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, it's just exactly what both of you have already said as far as, like what the best day ever looks like. My husband and I, we saw something like a meme, or maybe we saw it written on a board once, like this little phrase, that says like the key to a beautiful life is, there's three things. It's, having someone to love, having something to do, and having something to look forward to. And I kind of think about that, like when I think of like the best day ever, it's a combination of all of those things. Having someone to love, having something to do, and having something to look forward to. That's the best day ever if you include all of those things. And I think maybe the barometer for me is when I get into bed at night, how proud am I of my day? Like, was my day like, am I proud of how I interacted with people? Am I proud of the work I was able to produce? Am I proud of what I felt and what I experienced or what I learned in the day? So I don't know. There's lots of specific things that go into the best day ever, and for me, a lot of that has to do with feeling, feeling happy, feeling proud, feeling accomplished, stuff like that. But mostly the best day ever for me is just any day where I guess maybe I feel content when I get into bed at night, and even the days where I don't feel content, but I know that I learned a lot or I grew a lot in the day, even the hard days. Sometimes hard days are still best days ever, because of what we're getting out of them. So yeah, I think the best day ever, it's going to look different from person to person, but I think generally speaking, we're all kind of shooting for the same stars, when it comes to that. So maybe what we should talk about is like for the three of us specifically, what are some of the specific things that we each do or that we should do each day, to kind of give ourselves the best shot at having the best day ever. And let's start with Heather.
Well, I think this is really important because one of the things that we haven't really said yet, but I think we're just like alluding to at this point, is the best day ever is on you. You aren't going to be able to rely on anybody else to give you the best day ever. So you are going to set yourself up for the best or the worst. And like I was saying before, I can wake up really excited about my day in the morning, but if I don't set myself up, give myself the things that I'm going to need to like handle whatever gets thrown at me that day, then there it goes. So, and those are all things that I have to do. Like, it's not just going to happen to me. Life will happen to me. And then we have to go with it. So I think all three of us can agree, and we're all going to talk about this, that we're huge on doing those things that set ourselves up for the best day, taking responsibility for it, making it a priority, knowing that makes all the difference between the best and the worst day is what we do with ourselves, either first thing after we wake up or before we start work, before we start having to deal with people, doing something to get ourselves ready, right? So for me, meditation is huge. Meditation, or just being quiet for a little while and being quiet with my own mind or with my own thoughts and reminding myself that I'm in control of all of those things, and you can't control anybody else, but you can control how you react to them, that kind of thing. So meditation, and I actually do more deep meditation before I go to bed, because I think that sets, for me, my mindset up to like, I sleep well. And I think that's also one of the reasons that I wake up like feeling so good. But so like, if you're not a meditation first thing in the morning, like you're like, I don't have this kind of time, or like whatever, 5-10 minutes and just sit quietly. And then if you do more later, that's what works for me. So you don't have to feel like you have to sit forever going into this deep meditation first thing in the morning if you just can't do it, but just a few minutes of quiet, just like centering yourself, and then I would say, well, that first cup of coffee, but I have done coffee cleanses recently where I wasn't drinking coffee, but having it, even when I wasn't drinking it, I would like still do all this other same things in the morning so that it just felt, I would still come in my kitchen and I would like make my son's lunch and then I would sit by myself, the whole meditation thing, and like have quiet time before the day started, before I check my messages or really before I respond to any of them. Those like morning routine things. And when I'm sitting quietly, the biggest thing that I do is I make sure I have gratitude for something, for even if it's for just that cup of coffee or whatever, because that's the quickest way I think to shift your mindset into like a better place to receive your day, is to have gratitude for something, because you can't hate on people or on things when you're having gratitude, right? You just can't do both at the same time. So that would be a big one. And then just in general, things that I do, I would say reading for fun is a big one, because, for us, we always push that to the back burner as authors. We don't, and we get asked to read we have to read our own books. We get asked to read other people's books, and a lot of times those are fun too, but like having no strings attached, being able to pick up something that I wanted to pick up just for me, that's big, because then I feel like, I'm still in control of my life a little bit,
right? It's yours.
Like something that small. Yeah. I'm like, this is mine. Yeah, exactly. So things like that are great, because then it just like, it makes me feel like, yeah, like I'm driving some fun parts of my day, and that's important.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Amanda? What are the things that you do?
Yeah, well, I just want to say, for Chelsea, what you said about your barometer and like feeling content when you go to bed at night, I totally agree with that. And I didn't even think about that, but something I noticed that I do when I have a great day, when I have one of those best days, is I literally go to bed smiling. Like that's when you know your life is good, when you're like, when you go to bed with a smile on your face. And I've definitely gone to bed with a smile on my face on days that were not, perfect, but where I got a lot out of it, where I accomplished, not just accomplished a lot like in tasks, but really accomplished a lot in my own like personal growth, whatever was going on that day. So I just wanted to mention that, because I thought that was such a great point. And so maybe that's something we can all kind of pay attention to, is how do we feel when we go to bed at night?
Right.
And, and also with what Heather said, that your best day is on you. I love that because it's so true. And I think, it goes even bigger, our best life is on us too. And that life is made up of these days, and how we spend our time, but yeah, for me, I like to think about starting my day by winning in the morning. Like I really like that phrase, winning in the morning. And what that means for me is going to be different for each of you, and it's going to be different for every single person, because it's very personal. But I notice that I have really great days when I don't scroll social media first thing in the morning, because we can all be guilty of that. But seriously, I notice a huge difference when I get up in the morning, because, oh man, I know everybody's got their thing. Like for some people it's Facebook, Instagram. For me, it is Pinterest. I will scroll Pinterest for 30 minutes and just have, a great time. But, sometimes when I'm scrolling Pinterest, what I'm thinking is like, oh, look at all this cool stuff that I don't have, and already like I'm starting my day with this sense of lack. Right. So, so my best days are definitely when I just grab my water. I drink 16 ounces of water every morning before I get up. Everybody should definitely be doing that before you have your coffee, before you have your breakfast. Like, please have some water, because your body is so acidic when you wake up in the morning. But, that's just a little extra tidbit. So grab my water and journal or read something really encouraging. So I think like those are really great ways. But, the big things that I do are, so my version of meditation is an active meditation. It's, I chant. So I chant every morning, and I chant for a long time. And I don't want to say how long I chant for because I don't want people to be like, wow, she has that much time, or like, because it's going to be different for everybody, you know, but for me, chanting really awakens this sense of wisdom and courage and vitality. And I feel really strong once I've chanted. And I usually will chant until I can't take it anymore. And the energy is just built up in me so much that I can't wait to get to the next part of my day. You know, not in an anxious way, because there is a difference. There are times when I'll be chanting where I'm like, oh, I really need to do the dishes, or I really need to get this thing done, or I really need to, whatever it is. Not like that, but like when I just wait until I'm at that point where like, oh man, I've got so many great ideas. I feel so creative. I feel so strong. Like I'm so ready. So that is huge for me. That is like number one way to win in the morning, you know, for me. Breakfast is huge. I know a lot of people are not breakfast people. I don't understand that personally because I've always been a breakfast person. I love.
You're an eater.
I am.
You're hungry like every 2 hours, like clockwork. It's awesome.
Exactly. And that's why I eat breakfast in the morning, because I'm hungry. You know what I mean? Like I am so ready to eat by the time I've had my water, maybe a cup of tea or something while I'm chanting. Then, you know, when that's over, I am ready for some oatmeal.
Well, also considering
really exciting,
how long
right?
you chant, you've worked up an appetite. You know what? You should tell people how long you chant, because one of the things we're talking about here, and we're going to get to it in a second, probably too, a little more in depth, is about like how we do tend to sort of deprioritize all of these things because they're not productive or they're not physical tasks. But you have so much recognized how much chanting gives you every day that you really prioritize it to the point of you spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. People should take, you know, they should.
Yeah.
Really
Well, for me, it's not perfect, you know, it's not 100% every day, but I really try to chant 45 minutes to 1 hour every single day, before I do anything else.
And if you know you're feeling, because I know this about you, because one of the things we didn't say is a lot of times one of the things we do every day to set ourselves up is you and I talk on the phone. We talk on the phone almost every day. But, oh my God, I just went out of my mind. Oh, so what I know about you then is that like when you're feeling off or down physically or mentally, you chant even longer. Yeah. You don't try to push yourself harder for work. The first thing you do is you double your chanting that day, and then it helps, right? Like you've talked about how great you feel.
Yes. Like even just the other day, I was feeling really overwhelmed and a little run down, you know, so I didn't really feel like doing my normal routine. And I was going to give myself a break, and I was like, I got two choices. I can go in the bed and rest, or I can, you know, get in front of, you know, Hansen, that's what I chant to, and chant. And I chanted for 2 hours. And when I was done chanting, I had some genius ideas. I worked out some problems I didn't even realize I was having. And I was like, and I completely turned my day around, you know, because of that. So yeah, I mean, yes, thank you for allowing me to share that, because it is such a huge part of my life. And I will do it when I will use it as a way to turn my day around. So even if I get caught up and I'm tired and I'm like, I don't want to do this, but I have, you know, some other important engagements that I have to do in the, you know, the late afternoon or the evening or whatever, then I'll use it as a way to like switch off. And, and the other thing that I do, this is really important, is exercise. And that can look different for anybody. But for me, I know I've exercised when I got sweaty. You know, like when I sweat a little bit or a lot, you know, just depending on what I'm doing, that's so important. So for me, chanting and exercise in the morning are the two biggest things. And once I do that, I feel like a superhero. I did that today. That's why I'm talking so loud, because I feel so amazing right now.
I've talked to you on days when you didn't do that, and you're like, girl, today is not okay. Like you're like, I feel all over the place. Yeah. Like I don't feel it right. You do notice a difference for sure. And when I exercise, when I make the time and I actually shut the computer down, I feel better exercising at the end of my work day, because I've been sitting all day. And it works out like all those kinks and stuff. But I'm the same way. If I do it, like even if it's just yoga, even if it's just 15 minutes, it's a huge difference. And then I also have that same sense of accomplishment for the day, right? Like I did all the things for myself I was supposed to do. So I get it.
So these things are like tools. They're tools that we're using,
Yeah.
to kind of get ourselves going or to kind of wind ourselves down. And I know for me, like my morning routine it's pretty sensory oriented. I'm a little ADD, so I have like a lot of energy when I wake up in the morning, and that energy needs to go somewhere so that it doesn't distract me during the day, because I want to get stuff done. And so a lot of my daily practices, ideally speaking, are kind of physical. I for sure meditate when I wake up in the morning, and meditation can look different to everybody and does, and it doesn't always mean what people think it means. Meditation for me sometimes is just sitting in my backyard as the sun comes up in silence, or sometimes it's me sitting in my bedroom listening to some amazing music before I open my mouth and start getting going with my day, my ideas and stuff like that. So some type of meditation. And I don't ever put time frames on my morning routine, unless I have to, unless there's a schedule I'm trying to keep, if I have an appointment or something. But I don't put time frames on them. And I go back and forth about this sometimes, because sometimes I want to tell myself I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes every morning. But then if I know I've told myself I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes, the rebel inside me will be like, yeah, no, we're not doing that because you made it a rule. And so we're going to break that. So I kind of just let my morning flow as much as it can organically. So meditation's a really big one for me. I really love yoga and stretching. I am not crazy about exercising hard in the morning. I don't really like to sweat first thing in the morning. It kind of makes me angry, even though it's really good for me and stuff, but I will stretch like nobody's business. Yeah. Right? Oh man, I'll be resentful. But I like to stretch, or even just standing with my arms raised straight in the air, just in my backyard. It feels powerful, even though that's not really exerting much energy, but there's something about standing in a position that's unnatural, that kind of wakes me up and kind of makes me feel bigger than I am. And that's a big part of, I think, the artist in me. I kind of need to feel big before I go into my office to try and make something happen, some kind of art in there. So yeah, meditation, yoga. I love to dance. I love to throw on some really fun music and dance out all my leftover jitters and energy before I sit down at my desk. Because, you guys totally know, when we sit down, sometimes we're going to stay in that chair for 8, 9, 10 hours, without doing anything else. And so I like to just dance it out a little bit before I sit down. For sure eating, for sure. Sometimes I forget that, and that's crucial. Obviously, we need those nutrients in our brain. But big for me is, I need to secure solitude. That's a big part of me having a great day, is I need to make sure that I'm going to have time by myself without distraction. And that's a challenge for me sometimes, because I'm so social and I love people and I want to engage. I want to jump on social media and I want to make a phone call and I want people to come over, because I want to play all day with human beings. But that's not the most efficient way for me to get work done. So big part of my ideal day is making sure that I'm either in my office by myself, maybe even with the door locked so that I know it's mine, or just making sure I'm just going to be alone in a healthy, positive way. Really, yeah, just kind, gentle solitude is huge for me. Because then I can make it my creative space, and then who knows what I'll accomplish, the possibilities.
Okay. So I just want to put this down for the record, because I know all of our listeners fall in a different place about introvert, extrovert, and all of that. But all three of us have said that solitude in some kind of way is important, especially you, Chelsea. I want to point that out because you are one of the most extroverted people I know. And so even as an extrovert which means you get energy from other people, it lights you up, which means that would be one of your best day ever, things, still solitude is key and first. And so that's interesting to me. It's really interesting. And I just want to make sure even listeners hear that, especially extroverted listeners, there's value in that. It's really important.
Definitely. Well, and I think I'm assuming that for extroverts, it might even be kind of difficult for us to learn how to, not just secure solitude for ourselves, but to learn how to enjoy it enough to be productive in it, because there is like it feels unnatural for me to be all alone, right? But it also is where my best work happens, you know? And so for me, and every extrovert is just going to have to like, you know, build their own relationship with solitude. But like for me, I kind of think of it, I have to, I have to think of it like, oh, I'm not going to be alone. I'm going to go create something to keep me company, right? I'm going to go write my book and work on my characters, and they're going to be my energy source for the next 8, 9, 10 hours or whatever, you know, or I'm going to go paint, or I'm going to, you know, I do all kinds of creative things. I'll go write music or something. So I try to treat my art like my company for the day. So that like my contentment levels just, just a little higher, you know?
Yeah, I've never heard it said like that before, but that's exactly what it is. Whatever you're creating is your company for the day. And when you look at it like that, I'm sure it shifts everything about it.
It helps me
That's so
not
cool.
be so restless. So, and it's so important because
Yeah.
any of these things that we're talking about, if we skip them or if we don't do them, I imagine we all feel the impact of that. Like, let's talk about that for a second. Maybe like, how do you feel when you don't do these formulaic things, you know, for your ideal day? Like, Amanda, how do you feel when you miss some of these things, or you just wake up on the wrong side of bed or whatever?
Yeah. Well, I know that I will definitely have days where I feel like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do, or I'll feel like I'm a little tired. It's funny, when I feel a little tired, I end up just going straight to my computer and doing some easy work. So I feel like I'm doing something, even though what I should be doing is like my chanting and my exercising, right? And on those days, man, it is, you know, you don't notice it right away, but once like what Heather said, around 10 o'clock hits, and then noon hits, and then I'm like, and then I don't even know what's happening. I have lost complete control of my day because I have lost control of the way that I feel. That's why, because I've allowed the day to rule me and I didn't rule my day. So I always feel overwhelmed. I feel really stressed, and stress is definitely an issue for me. You know, I realize that like I get stressed, like, I don't want to say easily because I have a very hectic life, but you know, but my body really like does not process stress the best way, I think. And I can feel that come the evening because I feel burnt out. I just want to like, you know, lay in my bed. I just want to watch a show. I just want to tell the world to like F off, you know what I mean? So I do not go to bed with a smile on my face on days like that.
Yeah, totally. I completely get that. What about you, Heather? How does it affect you? These things.
Yeah, same. I would say a lot of the same thing, where you don't feel like you are in control of your day. You feel like it ran you. And one of the ways that happens when I'm not like deliberate in the morning. So one thing I would add, actually, back up and add, is to have one main like priority or goal for the day, at least one, where you're like, if I don't do anything else, if I just do this thing, you know, because if I don't have that and I don't do these things, what will happen is I'll get sucked into reacting. I just all day I'll just end up reacting, like, you know, if people email me, I will end up just reacting. Like, I'll feel like I have to email them right back, and I'll get sucked into something that had nothing to do with getting me closer to my goals or being productive, and it doesn't make me feel the way I want to feel. And then on top of that, at the end of the day, I'll look back, and those are the days where I'm like, where did the day go? Like, what did I even do with myself? I did not do anything that I can feel good about, because I got sucked into stuff that didn't matter, that didn't deserve my attention. And that's a really sucky feeling at the end of the day. And it really is so frustrating. And then we beat ourselves up, which makes it even worse. So it's like this cycle that perpetuates itself, either for the good or for the bad. And so when I don't do these things, that's what happens. I end up not feeling productive, and then I end up beating myself up because I wasn't productive. And then it's like even worse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. And I would imagine most people probably feel something similar, you know, when their day just starts going downhill right away. and for me,
well, and like for us, we work from home. Yeah. So we have even less of that interaction thing going, where people can pull us in different directions. But like if you work out, you know, outside the house, if you have that kind of day job, then if like you're interacting with people all day, either in an office or in some kind of public environment, an office is probably even less people. Like what if you're in retail and you do have to deal with customer and like you just end up reacting all day? And that's such an easy thing to let happen, where you're just reactive instead of proactive about how you feel and not letting people kind of like get under your skin. And so this is all the difference for that, especially for people who are listening to this going, how do I ever have the best day ever when I have a job I don't like, or like there's something about their life that they really can't wake up excited about. And so that's hard enough. And then, but so it's like more important for those people to do these things, to find whatever their thing is and do that thing every day, because otherwise you're just going to end up reacting to everyone else, and you're never going to be able to get centered and get to a place where you can even start to think about being content or have gratitude, even if it's only about pockets of your life, you know. So it's just even more important, I think. Amanda, you were going to say something, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to what you were saying about this perpetual cycle. And, something we didn't mention is that, so when you have a bad day, then you have a bad night, right? Like that's just how the day goes. Usually, usually that's how it goes. But, I think that this idea of having a great day, like winning in the morning, really starts the night before. And that's, that's really, cause like, I think people listening will be like, oh yeah, that's great for you. But like, I don't go to bed till midnight, and like, I'm so tired by the time my alarm goes off and I have to get my kids ready and blah, 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 blah. Well, and I hear that from a lot of people, that they do stay up really late, that they don't allow themselves to get adequate sleep. So then they don't feel good. And then this is like a perpetual cycle. And then they spend their entire weekends like trying to catch up on, on that sleep while having to deal with everything else that they have to do. And so I think that, taking responsibility for our day is also taking responsibility for our evening, and making sure, like, for me, if I want to chant for an hour and then exercise and have breakfast and all that stuff, I know I need to get up extra early so I can be working at a pretty decent hour so I can get enough done during that day. And so I know if I need to get up at, X time, then, and I need this much sleep, then I need to be going to bed by, that time in the evening, so I need to be in bed by 10 pretty much, or 11 or 9:30 or whatever it is, for that day. You got to know that. And it's sometimes when you're having that, that crazy overwhelming day where you're just reactive, it's very hard to have a break between your day and your sleep, where you kind of wind down. Maybe you have a cup of tea, maybe you read a book, maybe you have a conversation with your spouse, maybe you have a very intimate conversation with your spouse, or whatever it is that you do, to really separate it. There's a concept that Brian Johnson talks about. I love Brian Johnson. He has a program or a website called Optimize, and he talks about masterpiece days, which is essentially what we're talking about. And so he says that you can control the first part of your day and the last part of your day. Like usually, for the most part, everyone can control what they do in the morning before they go to work and in the evening before they go to bed. Everything else in between, we don't really have that much control over, because we don't know what's going to happen with the kids. We don't know what's going to happen with our work. We don't know what's going to happen in our personal life or whatever it is. We have no idea what we're going to be dealing with. We have the best intentions and we make a plan. And like, even like Heather was saying, I'm going to have my one thing that if I don't get anything else done because I had all these distractions that I didn't plan on, if I do this one thing, then it's a successful day. And so he talks about, having these separate times of the day, and like really being focused on nurturing each of these times during your day. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect. It's definitely not going to be perfect. You're lucky to have one or two masterpiece days a week, but but it's a practice, it's a practice, not a perfect. So, if we keep, trying to, to have the kind of life where we are nourishing ourselves so that we can give the most in whatever role that we play that day or that week or that year, or whatever it is. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Well, I will agree with you about the sleep big time, especially, and this is something we didn't really talk about specifically yet, but if you feel like one of the things keeping you from your best day ever is physical, if you have because for me, so I was not getting enough sleep, and I need a lot of sleep. my husband can just sleep like 5 hours a night and he's good to go. And that's crazy to me, because I need like at least like, let's say 9.
Yeah.
Let's start there. But so the past couple of years I've been dealing with, I had a hormone imbalance, come to find out. And then so I didn't want to take prescription drugs, long story, but I went down the rabbit hole of like herbal medicine and how to heal myself naturally. And so I started doing all this research, and one of the main things for that, for a hormone imbalance and for like a bazillion other things, is that your body needs to go to bed by a certain time, because there are processes that happen in your body that if you go to bed too late will not happen. Digestive processes and enzymes and hormones and the release of certain things in your body that help keep you healthy that don't happen if you don't go to sleep by a certain time, or they happen wrong or weird or whatever. And so that can mess us up. And so obviously that's a whole other conversation about a million other things you could be doing to try to feel better physically. But you're right, it starts at night. When I started getting more sleep, and having a bedtime routine, getting in bed earlier and all that, it helped a ton with how I felt physically, which then helped how I felt mentally. Yeah. So it's all connected. And when you recognize how connected all this stuff is, and how these things we're talking about doing are, like Chelsea said, they're tools, and they're necessary. They're not extra, if you have time. They are the priority.
Yes.
Really.
Well, and there's lots of components. I mean, clearly there's lots of layers to having, your ideal day, or to taking care of yourself. And there's the nighttime, there's the daytime, and everybody has their own formula and their own happy place. There's lots of aspects to it. And as we're kind of bringing the episode to a close here, maybe we can each just go around and just kind of let the listeners know, like, what message each of us want them to take away from today's episode. So let's start with Amanda. What do you want to say to our listeners today on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, I would say know what your fundamentals are. For me, I mentioned it's chanting and exercising, like those, and breakfast. Know what, and sleep too. So really, like, those are my fundamentals: sleep, nutrition, exercise, and chanting. Something I really do to nourish my soul and my body, right? And that puts me in the best state. So I would say know what your fundamentals are. And do your best to put them into practice. It's really, exactly as Heather said, it's really important that we prioritize it, because that's how we can show up best in the world. That's how we can show up best for our kids, for our, spouses, our friends, our family, for our employers, for our clients, whoever it is that you need to be your best self for. It's not selfish. It is actually really selfless if you look at it from that perspective. Yeah. So I would say know your fundamentals and prioritize them. And it's a practice. It is a practice. It is not about being perfect. So if you get it wrong for an entire week, don't worry. Go to bed early and start fresh the next day.
Yeah. What about you, Heather?
Yeah. I would say that it really all boils down to caring about how you feel. Because when you care about how you feel, then you're going to make time to do the stuff that, whatever that is for you, that makes you feel like you don't have to wait for an exotic vacation or to win the lottery to have your best day ever, that you can make your every day a best day ever with how you feel.
Absolutely. And I think for me, mostly what I kind of want listeners to take away today is that it's okay and important to pay attention to these things. A lot of these practices that we've been talking about today, whether it's meditating or exercising or dancing or whatever it is, a lot of them sometimes feel self-indulgent. They feel like that self-care, that self-love, like it's, they don't always feel like priorities, because socially speaking, we're sort of conditioned to not really include them, or label them as part of our quote unquote work. But they are just as important, if not more so, than the actual work that we do for taking care of ourselves. So I just want people to know, I want you guys to give yourselves permission to prioritize the things that take care of you. Give yourself permission to take that time for yourself, because it's for your work too. It's for your creativity. It's for your happiness. It's for your relationships. You take care of you and everything else will fall into place. You just got to give yourself that breathing room, that wake up in the morning and yes, I am not only allowed to give myself this time, but I should. It's important. Yeah. So these are some of the things that we all the three of us kind of do for our days, trying to help us achieve the ideal best day ever. But we would definitely like to hear some of the things that our listeners out there do. What are some of the things that you guys out there do to kind of ensure that you're going to have a good day? And what are the things that you're maybe pushing to the back burner, but all of a sudden you get excited to get back to? Maybe leave us a comment or send us a message on Instagram. Just hit us up on social media. Let us know where you guys are at and what makes your day great and what gets in the way. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, we're very excited that you guys listened today, and we hope that you will join us next time on the Raw Honeys podcast. Have a great one.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Raw Honeys podcast. If so, please share it with a friend or post a review. Heather, Chelsea, and I would love to connect with you. Check us out on Instagram at the Raw Honeys, or join our community of honeys on Facebook. Thanks for listening. We wish you nothing but big love.